Hi, I'm Harry Wingfield from the UCF IRB staff. In these modules, I will be talking about the IRB. This first module will give you an overview of what the IRB is and how we operate. Learning about the IRB and the research regulatory processes could easily be a full semester course, but I have reduced it to 9 modules that should each take you about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. This first module covers information about the IRB and IRB processes. In other modules, I will discuss planning your research to fit your resources and deadlines. I will talk about what is and is not human subjects research. I will cover the types of IRB submissions. I will go in depth about HIPAA regulations. I will show you how to start and complete your submissions in Huron. I will talk about doing research outside of UCF, including working on studies at other institutions, collaborating with other institutions, and using research team members from outside of UCF. I will go over common mistakes and how to avoid them, and I will tell you how to send your study to the IRB and where to go for help. We will start this lesson with ethics. Institutional review boards exist to ensure that research follows ethical standards. The Belmont Report, published in 1979, is the ethical basis for most of the research regulations in place today. The 3 principles are: 1. Respect for persons, which requires that research participants provide appropriate informed consent. Beneficence, which requires that research be done with the lowest risk possible. And finally, justice, which prohibits exposing one group to risky research just because they're convenient, or doing clinical trials for high-risk new drug treatments on patients who will never have access to these drugs when they are approved, like using poor people or people in third world countries to test drugs which only rich people will be able to afford. We require all study team members to take training through the CITI program. The CITI training covers important milestones in research ethics. Remember that these ethical standards apply to everything you do in research. The CITI training that you are required to take helps explain the important regulations in the Common Rule. Many of these regulations are not specific about how they should be applied or defined. UCF IRB may have policies and procedures based on the Code of Federal Regulations and the Common Rule that are different than other IRBs at other universities and hospitals. Each institution's policies and procedures are developed based on state and local laws and institutional policies. That's why we may ask for slightly different kinds of information, have different forms, or might have different interpretations of terms like documentation of consent than the IRB at, say, Orlando Health or at the University of Texas, El Paso. The Common Rule regulations are there to protect research participants. UCF applies these regulations to all research. About the Institutional Review Board. The Institutional Review Board is part of UCF's Human Research Protection Program and is under the larger umbrella of the UCF Office of Research. We currently have 2 boards. Each board has its own chair. At some institutions, there might be separate boards for social and behavioral research or medical research or children's research. Currently, though, both UCF boards review all types of research. Each board has at least 6 members, including the chair. who come from a variety of backgrounds. We are required by law that each board roster includes one non-scientist and at least one person who is unaffiliated with UCF. The IRB office staff consists of 2 managers, several IRB specialists or coordinators like me, and an administrative assistant. When you send your submission to the IRB, the administrative assistant is the first person to see it. She will check it for completeness, and then, when it passes her pre-check, she assigns it to one of the coordinators for review. Most of the IRB coordinators are also listed on the IRB roster as alternate members, and as such, we are allowed to review and approve submissions if they are not more than minimal risk. The convened board or full board can approve, require modifications, table, or disapprove a study. The IRB staff reviewers, though, cannot disapprove a study. They can approve or require modifications, or they can send the submission to the full board. The board members and the reviewers are not responsible for assisting you with your study design, but they can request changes to the design for scientific merit. The UCF Human Research Protection Program, including the IRB, is accredited by F.I.R.E, which is the largest accrediting agency for human research protection programs. F.I.R.E is the Association for Accreditation of Human Research Protection Programs. Being accredited requires us to uphold additional standards beyond those required in the regulations. The inbox for the IRB staff includes initial submissions, requests for modifications to a study, continuing review submissions, study closure submissions, and what we call RNI reports. RNI stands for Reportable New Information and is used for unexpected events and other reports that must be acknowledged by the IRB. All these submissions get lumped into the same queue. They are processed on a first-come, first-served basis. This starts with the IRB assistant's pre-check. Once she assigns a submission to a coordinator, the coordinator will also work on it on a first-come, first-served basis. The review time is fairly consistent while the submission is on the IRB side, but it can be sped up or slowed down depending on how long you take to respond to requests from the IRB staff to make corrections or clarifications. If you need your approval quickly, respond to requests quickly. Plan on starting your review process at least 6 weeks before you need to get the project approved. If you need assistance, your first source for help should be the IRB guidance documents, which I will discuss later, and your faculty advisor. The IRB staff has office hours available for you and your faculty advisor to meet with us for questions if you cannot answer them on your own. If your question can be answered in an email, send the email to the IRB email, irb@ucf.edu. I'll go over this again in another module. And now we have a question. What are the 3 ethical principles of the Belmont Report? Your choices are 1, scientific integrity, economy, and legality. 2, convenience, publishability, and approvability. 3, respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Or 4, pregnant women, prisoners, and children. The correct answer is 3, respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Scientific integrity and legality fall under these 3 core principles. Convenience, publishability, and approvability are not ethical principles. And pregnant women, prisoners, and children are groups that require special consideration under the principle of respect for persons. And another question, Which of the Belmont Report principles requires doing research with the least possible risk? Your choices are 1. Respect for persons, 2. Beneficence, 3. Justice, or 4. All of the above. The correct answer is number 2, beneficence. The principle of beneficence arises from first, do no harm. The IRB's role is to ensure that research is conducted with the least possible risk. But remember that all three principles work together. That's the end of learning Module 1. The next module will provide tips for planning your research.